I can't believe this day is upon us, but Snow White has been released. It's the live action controversy bedeviled Snow White. Quick refresher on probably how not to promote a movie. Here we have the press tour, which was just certifiably insane.
No longer 1937.
She's not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be, and the leader that her late father told her that she could be if she was fearless, fair, brave, and true. The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story. With a guy who literally stalks her.
Yeah.
Weird. So we didn't do that this time. I was scared of the original cartoon. I think I watched it once and then I never picked it up again. I watched it for the first time in probably 16, 17 years. The cartoon was made 85 years ago, and therefore it's extremely dated when it comes to the ideas of women being in roles of power. No longer.
That is the lead actress for the movie.
Out there promoting.
I've never seen someone hate the movie they're the lead of so much. It was just unbelievable. So that already was just like bad start, tough. And then the second part is during more promotion in 2024, Rachel Zegler posted on X thanking fans after the trailer release, but then said, and always remember Free Palestine. For people not aware, Gal Gadot, I believe, was in the IDF.
She was.
She literally served in the Israeli defense.
Yeah.
Not great. So that didn't go over super well either. And then after the 2024 election went down, Trump, Zegler posted on Instagram, made Trump supporters and Trump voters and Trump himself never know peace. So I would say the grand slam of all things you probably should not be doing when promoting a movie, just in general, but let alone $250 million project based on a story that you clearly hate. There's also, if you remember the dwarf controversy, they released the dwarfs, and they were a very merry, diverse band of
non-dwarfs, right?
Yeah, and that was the whole thing. Like, somebody objected to the idea that you'd have a live action movie like this with actual real life people who are dwarfs,
little people, right?
Because that's condescending. So we have to have regular people and use CGI to make them look like they're dwarfs. And so then other actual actors who are dwarfs are like, oh great, so you do a movie
You're right.
that I have a chance to star in, and you cut us out of in it because you like us. Yeah, you don't want us to be discriminated against. So
this
dwarves, is like a death by 1,000 paper cuts. This
dwarves out of work, and they replaced them with these like kind of scary looking CGI dwarves, which also were visually jarring during reshoots because they had to reshoot it with CGI dwarves around her now, which is not ideal. That also ballooned the budget, so I think it started at $209 million, and then after extensive reshoots, up to $269.4 million. I mean, I didn't even watch the movie. Going to be come forward. Didn't even watch the movie. I saw some reviews on it. They were pretty hilarious. What was at this point? I almost forgot.
Of course not. I mean, like, can I just ask a question?
Wait, Josh. Before, I almost forget at this point what the original Snow White, like the point of it was, because it's just gotten so maligned. I'm like, what was even compelling about the story to begin with? So, like, what was the original Snow White, Erica, the literary expert, and why was it timeless?
Okay, so the original Snow White, we don't know when the story came about. It rose in history in the Bavarian Alps at some point. And of course, the Brothers Grimm wrote it down. So we're talking like mid-19th century at this point. They write this down. And the first Disney, the 1937, was pretty close to the Brothers Grimm. So you have a king and a queen who long for a child. They can't have a child. The queen has a little daughter, and I will quote, as white as snow, as red as blood, and as black as ebony wood, and therefore they called her Little Snow White. In the movie with Rachel Zegler, they apparently changed it to, she was born during a snowstorm, so they named her Snow White. Get it?
Oh, no.
I think Tim Young's review over at Daily Signal was the best. And he's like, watching this was like watching a 7-year-old come up with a story and just starting every plot twist with, and then they like completely do something random. But the original Snow White, I mean, all these fairy tales are kind of bizarre, a little bit dark. They usually have to do with innocence. There's someone innocent. There's something evil. the evil comes, attacks innocence, and tries to degrade it and tear it apart. And then someone, through self-sacrificial love, comes and saves the innocent. Something else that Tim Young said was, oh no, this was Anthony Esolen. Anthony Esolen's review was, look, you can't make a true fairy tale movie if you don't believe in true innocence. And you can't make a fairy tale if you don't have childlike wonder. And clearly the people who made this film have neither innocence nor wonder because they lost the plot. I did go and look up the original Grimm, the way it ends. So at the ending of the Disney movie, the 1937, the Wicked Witch there's a big thunderstorm and she falls off a tree branch and into a ravine and you never see her again. You don't see if she dies. Here's how the Grimm brothers ended it. At the wedding of the prince and Snow White, the wicked woman comes to view her stepdaughter, and she cannot bear the beauty of it all. When she arrives, she recognized Snow White and, terrorized, can only stand there without moving. And so the men put a pair of iron shoes into burning coals. The iron shoes were brought forth with tongs and placed before her. She was forced to step into the red-hot shoes and dance until she fell down dead.
Oh,
that's the original.
I'd say we gotten soft.
I mean, that was hardcore German Bavarian fairy tale for you.
Yeah. Didn't people get like eaten all the time?
Yeah, people are always being eaten.
There's
Those were Brother Grimm's.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, you have these stories like, of wolves and, like, why, why are we so afraid of the wolves? Like, because wolves, I mean.
They were a real problem in 1812.
Like wolves would actually attack children and kill them. Like, this is not you live in a forest, like, this really happened. I mean, like, that's, again, I think like, 1883 and the 1923 and all that, Yellowstone series, they do some things that they do exaggerated, but like there was like the frontier. So you have to have some of these fairy tale stories to kind of explain things and work things through. I get it. But yeah, this is a flop. I mean, of course it's a flop. I mean, I don't know. I feel like I mentioned this before. We're like in a golden age of television, and like movie theater stuff is all boring. Like the economics aren't there anymore. So like I haven't gone to like Thor Ragnarok was the last thing I saw in a theater, 2017. Whoa. I love that movie. But that's like the exception that proves the rule. Like I've never had a desire, I can't wait to see this in theater instead of waiting 2 months and watching in my own house. Like, I don't get it.
No, I saw Maverick. Maverick Top Gun in the theater was cool because of the like flying. That was kind of cool, full screen. But
yeah, but I still waited until it came out on streaming.
Can I ask a question to both of you? I don't even really know the answer to this per se. I understand the economic incentive of just remaking stuff that people already have an affinity towards, like the live action remakes, whatever. Like, I think it makes sense. It gets people in the door. That does. But it seems to me there's a streak of, and hopefully this is ending soon, who knows, people making movies that they hate the source material of. And that doesn't make sense to me.
Just to tarnish it.
Yeah. But like they would waste all that money just to tarnish something that was beloved. I mean, you look back to the original Snow White, it was very clear that there was a respect, at least. I know there was even actually argument at the time of kind of sanitizing the Brothers Grimm stuff, but there was a respect and love and innocence, to your point, of the original story, and that there was something good and worth showing to the audience and sharing with the broader world the magic of Snow White at the time, or even other early princess movies and things like that. And I think of movies now that are good, there's a love of what is being put forward. And maybe there's a perverted sense of love of what they're doing to Snow White, or the original intent was before all the reshoots and backlash was like people love the idea of kind of a feminist retelling of a story that had nothing to do with that. And they love that. So they're willing to do
Star
whatever.
Wars. Let's do
Star Wars. Star Wars was another one that I thought of big time because that. So maybe it is like, I just need to look at it like everyone has. You
know what it is, Tom?
Something.
I think you're identifying something right. Sorry to interrupt, but like, I guess the point there's so many Star Wars. I mean, there are girls that like Star Wars. I'm not downloading that at all, of course. But when I was a kid, it was all boys, almost always boys. And it was boys, age 10 to 14 that just absolutely treasured and loved it so much. And then there are people out there that almost hate them for liking it. And they want to like come into their swimming pool and, poop on the parade. And like they have like a visceral reaction that you seem to be enjoying this. And so like they want to wreck Star Wars and make it their own and get a bunch of, so they ruin the Star Wars 7, 8, 9, and they're like, and people like me who grew up on it, like, these are really great stories. I like to tell my kids, and they're like almost revel in that. It's making people like me mad. Like, this is such a weird way to operate a fan base. Like,
let me add to that. I think I saw that very personally, actually, recently with, I don't know if you guys saw the Joker movie, and then they did Joker Full A Do.
I haven't watched
I actually kind of randomly watched it with my wife. I watched the first Joker movie, and I'm kind of done with superhero movies personally. I'm just kind of tired of them.
Oh my gosh!
But yes. I actually found the Joker movie to be super compelling, down to earth, great acting performance.
The one with Heath Ledger?
No. The one with Joaquin Phoenix.
Oh, okay.
It came out 2016, fairly recently, maybe even sooner than that. But basically, people were mad that movie ended up being a success, because they thought were liking it for the wrong reasons. Mm-hmm. So the reason, how dare you look at this and think that because the guy was a struggling, I think he was a clown or struggling comedian, and it was kind of a really personal, gritty, poignant retelling of a young man struggling and his suffering turning him into basically nothing matters and a nihilist and just causing anarchy. And people, to me personally, and I'm not an anarchist, I thought it was fascinating. It was just a really well done, well told story. But because the fandom that got around it was like, oh, they liked it, they shouldn't have liked it for this reason. And so with Joker 2, the sequel, they had the same guy, they gave him a ton of money, and I guarantee they told him, like, you need to tarnish this character, basically. You can't tell the story that you told before or build upon it. You actually need to deconstruct it through the sequel. And they did. And people were enraged. They were so mad that this was done because it was so obvious what was being done. It was, you like this for the wrong reason, and therefore we're going to blow it up with a lot of money and fanfare in your faces.
If I could I want to just interject there, because I think that, pointing to the economics of it, there is that component of what has happened to our film industry, but there's also a spiritual component. And I think when you said the word deconstruct, that's something that we're seeing across the board. So not only in things like the Star Wars, in what you saw with the Joker movie, we just saw Captain America, the star, come out and be like, Captain America's not about America. Like, we have to deconstruct to that. And then, I see it on the female side of things with like the Jane Austen remakes that we have now, Little Women remakes that turn these classic stories of femininity and what it means to be a woman, what it means to fall in love and pursue marriage with a man, the sort of deconstructing of that. Like, we can't just do Jane Austen. Now we have to do Jane Austen and remake her in our own image. And I think it's because spiritual poverty can't be creative in itself. It can't come up with its own original content. It has to be parasitic upon the good, the true, and the beautiful. And so we see these good stories, and then we see people who, for whatever reason, have some kind of spiritual poverty, and then we can go into all those. We always love to point back to sexual revolution, goes way before that, but they end up taking what's good from our society and our American culture and being like, I gotta tear this down and remake it in my own image. And it's an idolatry and a poverty.
Well, and just to wrap it up, with Snow White, there is a minor critique I would almost agree with Rachel Ziegler on. Like, the idea, like, Disney has created this whole industry of like the dainty princess, and she needs to be rescued. And so that's one element that she's pushing back at. Mm-hmm. And she's saying, but then her answer to that is that Snow White should be a girl boss. Like, that's not the answer either. Like, I don't need a man. Okay, great. And so, like, if we actually had true, like, femininity that's not like completely like a dainty little, like, I'm gonna die if I don't need help, but like also like a true feminine woman, like a real woman, that would, because men and women are in this together, and there's nothing wrong with the man leading the way, and there's nothing wrong with the woman being the heart of the home. But so again, like, there are some critiques you could say about the Disney princess complex stuff, but if the answer is to, you go, girl, you don't need men. Like, well, that's not the answer either. So,
no, you know what I'm dreading? I am dreading the Little House on the Prairie remake. I don't know. I don't think I'm going to be able to handle what they do to Ma and Pa. They're going to kill it. That's my prediction. I hope I'm wrong.
It's going to be good.
I hope I'm jaded.
They're going to make some reference to gay something. I was the big example of this. I thought was High School Musical. I went back and watched it. Talk about a different time and different innocence.
No kidding.
But there was like one guy who played basketball. I think it was Corbin Blue's character. All he wanted to do was bake. And he's like, dude, I just want to make creme brulee. And they did a whole dance number around him just wanting to do creme brulee. And they're like, no, you got to stick to the status quo and ball out. And 100% that would be about him being like pansexual or something now. Like there's 100%. I was like, there's no way they don't
figure
make
that
this.
anyway. You know,
Yeah, exactly. No, dude, he was just, my boy just wanted to make creme brulee. He didn't want to ball out. So anyway,